Hi, I'm Ed Parcaut, your host of Inner Edison. What I'd like you to take away from today's show is our greatest growth comes from our greatest failures. Today's guest is Lance Graulich, or Lick. Sorry, I'll get there. I apologize. Let's welcome him and get to know his journey, his story, everything about him. I do know that he is in the franchise industry. He helps people get into franchises. Let's find out all about that, because that's kind of always, and I'm just going to throw this in. I'll let you say something in a second, Lance. It's always been in my back of my mind that was a bad industry. And so I want you to explain to me why it's not and why I'm wrong. Are you following me?
Absolutely, Ed. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
No problem. I mean, this, a lot of people come on here, they're either in business or they're thinking about starting a business and they don't know if a franchise is right for them, if it's going to steal money from them. I've been around forever, so I've seen everything. So explain to me why somebody, how did you get into this first? And then explain to me why somebody would want to get into the franchising.
So I started on Wall Street with in the family business, and let me back up a little bit. I've listened to quite a few of your podcasts, and I like your background and I like your show a lot. In the world of investment opportunities, you can do real estate, you can do Wall Street, you can start a business. The world of business is a huge opportunity. And most people don't have their own original idea that's worth being born. So I tell people, I don't care whether you're an attorney. In fact, I know two different attorneys that this is how they started. They wanted to have their own business so badly. These are attorneys. They've been to law school. They spent a lot of time in schooling, but they had no original ideas. They weren't Mark Zuckerberg. They didn't have an idea to create a company like Facebook. So, and most people don't. So what did they both do? At the time, they didn't know each other. They both started or bought a franchise. They invested in a franchise. So what I will say to you is franchising is not right for all people, but it is certainly right for most people when someone like myself, for free, I'm a free resource, I will match you up with the best opportunity for you. And that's what it's really all about.
So you're like me, a broker.
Absolutely.
Right? Basically, they don't pay us. We get paid by where we go to get, for me in the loan industry, where they get the loan, they pay me. My clients don't pay me. And then a lot of people are like, we don't pay you. How do we not pay you? It's a totally different world than it used to be.
Absolutely.
But one thing, right. And you were saying the family business. What's the family business?
Well, so I had a grandfather, Polish immigrant, and he had a supermarket empire that he created. The guy barely spoke English, Grandpa Izzy, very successful for 37 years or so. My other grandfather was a real estate attorney. So I kind of grew up, the old nature versus nurture argument. How do people become entrepreneurs? I had no chance of being employed for very long. And I wasn't. But I looked at what my dad did helping my Grandpa Izzy with the supermarket business. And my dad was an accountant, but then followed his older brother onto Wall Street. And my dad's company was the largest over-the-counter trading house on Wall Street.
Okay.
I got invited into that, did that throughout the summers and college and out of college. And I realized, Dad, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm kind of bored in New York City. As crazy as that sounds, I want to go to someplace new. And I followed another relative to Arizona and got in the franchise world, specifically in restaurants. But, I learned right away, look, everybody has opportunities. Sometimes you don't know what the best opportunities are for you at the time. I don't have a rear view mirror. I love the experiences that I've had. But the world of franchising really shows people the way, to be successful and have your own financial freedom.
Right. Now, hindsight's always 20/20. So,
Absolutely.
Right? Everybody knows that. But that's, I was listening to, I'm not going to say his name on my podcast because he's not come on yet. So I'll wait till he comes on to say his name. He was saying how it's so much cheaper to buy a business than start your own business because you're already in. And, he wasn't necessarily talking about franchise. He was just talking start buying a business because they already invested all this money, invested all this time where you come in already ahead of the game. And I never thought of it that way until I heard him making these statements. I'm like, I could see that because, I've always started my own businesses in the mortgage industry because that's just what I knew. My dad worked for Ma Bell, passed away when I was 12. You kind of probably know the story, hairy cell leukemia. So I didn't have that. My stepdad worked for the government. So, he wasn't a real go-getter when it came to working hard. And then my mom was actually, I'd have to say, the entrepreneur at the time, because she would do estate sales, right? She got into an estate sale. So in her own world. And so I grew up seeing that, selling stuff, buying stuff, but I didn't understand how that affected me until later on in life when I, went in the medical field and then realized I wanted to get in the business world after I got my degrees. So,
yeah.
I don't know if there was a question there or I was just talking about myself.
Let me answer. First of all, I have a great estate sale franchise, by the way.
Do you?
But franchising is just taking everyday ideas. There's a lot of local plumbers, but they don't usually provide great service and follow-up and communication. But you go to a plumbing franchise, of which I have several that are fantastic, you're going to get amazing communication. You're going to get everything you ever dreamed in a plumber, so to speak. So are there bad franchisees? Yeah, we've all been to a McDonald's that had lousy service. Now, whether it's a franchisee, whether it's a corporate store, whatever, you're dealing with human behavior. But, you mentioned something really important. I get people all the time. I'm working with a gentleman I spoke to earlier today. His name's Justin. And Justin came to me through a business broker friend of mine. And the business broker wasn't able to find him an existing business that he could buy and just take over. Couldn't find him anything he liked. What I always say about existing businesses when they're for sale is you're either going to get somebody's headache that they're selling for cheap, that they screwed up, or you're going to get something that they're going to sell at a nice multiple, a nice premium. And franchising, that's a whole other story because the exit strategy is fantastic. There's a great secondary market. Franchises sell for 4 times cash flow typically. So if you want to, pay somebody else for their success and buy a successful business, go right ahead. But I show people the way that you can get into a franchise that's $100,000, $200,000, whatever, and become a multimillionaire out of it. I've made those mistakes. I know you talk about that. I've made all the mistakes with partners, with this, with that. I've always run great franchises, but I've made plenty of mistakes with partners, especially my first wife.
Yeah, we all had those. I live in California. I remember I was going through college. My instructor says, "This is what you say in California." My first wife, right? So I laughed at the time, but then later on, it was like, okay, my second wife. But it's important that no matter what you get into, you figure out what you're really looking for. You kind of got some crickets over there.
Well, you actually brought something up that's just gold right there, what you just said. So many people come to me with this very specific passion, and somewhere, somehow, somebody used the P word and said, follow your passion. While that can be true for a lot of people, it's not always the case. Like, they come to me with a passion. A guy came to me with a passion for the restaurant business because he's done it his whole life. Now he wanted to be an owner. And I said, do I have permission to show you something with all that knowledge of, difficult employees, difficult business, perishable goods, all the things you've learned in the restaurant business? What if I could show you something that's 40% the investment and 120% more profitable? And he said, oh, absolutely. And his wife happened to be a CPA, so they did not buy a restaurant. So It's not about the passion. I know you've said about, a lot of people talk about the why. I talk about the what. What do you want? What is it you want? What is the investment? What is the schedule? Some people call me and say, I don't want to work nights or weekends. Great. I got something for you. Got plenty of things for you. So the what is more important. Then we'll figure out the how and the which brand is for you.
Right. And are they about the same cost on average to get into a franchise, or just they're all across the board?
They're all across the board. Most of the misconceptions are because people understand, brick and mortar franchises like McDonald's and other food giants out there, and they're expensive. Those, they're worth it. There's value. that's the whole thing. So many people think, oh my God, I have to pay these fees. So, well, you're going to have to invest a lot of money to do something on your own, because you're going to screw it up first. And you don't know how to do anything because you're creating these SOPs and systems and what have you. So, while to be a McDonald's franchisee, you have to be, have a high net worth and be a multimillionaire. I have quite a few franchises that are 150,000 or less. I would say there's a ton of franchises, about 4,500 franchises last I counted, although I don't usually count, but there's quite a few that are 150,000 or less.
Yeah, I was wondering because I had on my other show, it's a real estate show, I had a local company on, and they had just bought a franchise. They do mobile glass and interior glass and all that stuff. And they bought a franchise for closets. And I'm like, I just didn't understand why they would buy that franchise instead of just putting the machines in their stuff and going for it. But I guess there has to do with the learning period that you'd have to spend, where that would be a better purchase to actually, because it was already done, and it must have been cheaper or less expensive, I should say, not cheaper.
Ed, no, you're right there. I mean, because time is money, and if somebody can cut their learning curve and they have an add-on business like a glass or blind business or window coverings, flooring, home improvement has never been hotter. I can tell you that when you get in the franchise process, it's regulated by the federal government. There's a franchise disclosure document that everybody would receive, 23 items. Every brand has to follow that. And in there's an earnings claim. Typically, it's not required, but if they're putting something in there, the average franchisee, like I have a brand that's a staffing company, it says, a mature franchisee is doing $6 million in revenue. And the footnote there is, I think it's 5 years or more. Been in business 5 years or more, you can do $6 million, $150,000 franchise. And you have to go through the validation stage. You have an opportunity to actually talk to every great brand has a validation stage where you'll talk to existing franchisees and say, so Ed, I know you've been through this, and tell me about when you started and became a Budget Blinds franchisee. What did you experience? What was the ramp up period like? Because everybody has the same anxiety when they start a business, and you just have a lot less of it when you get into a franchise, because you should, if you do the right due diligence, you'll have all your questions answered. So it's all about value. That's what it comes down to. I had an obnoxious, very successful CPA on quite a few shopping centers that I was talking to recently, and he was just an ass. And he was one of those that franchising isn't right for them. He's like, well, I'll decide who I'm going to go with. And I was like, yeah, you go right ahead, but it's a two-way street, buddy. And he really wanted a specific fitness brand. I made the introduction. The VP of development for that franchise calls me and said, I don't know that he's going to fit our culture. I said, yeah, I don't think he is. And we gave him another chance. I gave him another coaching session on how to be a nice individual, but there's no I in team.
No, but I came up this way before everybody else. There was an M&E, so.
Yes.
Like that was back in before 80s, all right? And then all of a sudden everybody's doing it. So.
I don't know that I actually heard that, so I appreciate it.
Oh, that's been around forever. Yeah, because one of my the guy was a jerk that I worked for, and he was like, "There's no I in team." I go, "Yeah, but there's an M and there's an E."
Yep.
And no, he didn't like that.
Yeah. At the end of the day, though, Ed, it is fair to say that we all have to. We've all been on a plane, I think, and what's the first thing they tell you about safety on a plane? In the event the oxygen mask comes down. Even if you're traveling with a small child, put it on yourself first, because if you die, this child has no chance. Correct. So at the end of the day, we still have to take care of ourselves, and we need to do what's best for us. But in franchising, there is a whole system in place to ensure, and I'll make sure that people find the best brand for themselves and love life.
Right. All right. So Lance, if I wanted to get a franchise, what would the process be? How would you help me figure out what I wanted? I mean, I know you said what, not the why, but for somebody, I want to, because we
know why already.
Right. I want to make money.
Current boss and hate their job.
But they don't realize employees. So, sometimes employees are a headache too. But now, food industry is probably one of the most notorious for hard, one of the, a lot of people do it, but it just seems like it's really hard work for the pay that you get.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, most of my friends, maybe it's my circle, most of my friends have made millions in the restaurant business, multi-units. They start with one, you net $150,000, $200,000 a year, and you have 10 of them. I have a friend that has franchise hair salons, started with one, and now he has 20, and he nets $1.5 million a year. So, but you asked a great question. How do you start? It all starts with a phone call. I have lenders, many, many lenders. I just got a young lady, never thought she'd get a franchise. Amazing lady and her husband, $40,000 loan, I think it ended up being, with zero down. I've never done that before. Never tried to do that, but did it. They weren't homeowners. Typically with the SBA, if you're going to get a loan, they like you to be a homeowner.
They want to cross collateralize that.
They do. So at the end of the day, I'll help with everything. And it all starts with the first phone call. I have many first phone calls with people every single day. Had a couple reach out on my website today, and I called them and they answered. It's like, great. You got time for a call now? Sure. And we just go through all of it. I want to hear their passion. I want to hear their interests. Pet-related franchises are incredibly hot today. Do you like pets?
You said pet, right?
Dogs, cats. Whether it's grooming, whether it's dog training, incredibly profitable. And you talk about employees. People that love pets, it's easy to find them. And if it's working a fryer at a McDonald's for X amount an hour versus playing with dogs all day, what are you going to pick? I think I know the answer. But food franchises, Ed, are incredibly popular. They always have been. The second largest category is personal care services. So like salons, massage, nails, things like that, waxing. But the bottom line is, what I do with people is I walk them through my process. What is their investment level? How much cash do they have on hand? I try not to make them feel uncomfortable in the beginning, but at the end of the day, what are they looking for? It's kind of like looking for a spouse, a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it might be. What are you looking for? What are your preferences? Starts with, where are you? Because what I do is I'll do the territory checks and say, Ed, you're in blah, 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 California. Guess what? Here are the top 4 brands I have for you, et cetera, et cetera. And we get on a follow-up call. I give you a 2-minute presentation about each of them. Sometimes it's not in the first round that I find your brand. Sometimes it takes a couple of rounds. And as you give me your feedback, things change. Your tastes change. How many people go looking for a spouse and think that they have an idea in mind and end up marrying someone else? It happens. Tastes change.
You're marrying the wrong one the first time.
That's right. I did it wrong the first time.
I did too. First and second time. Finally found it.
Second time around, I got a perfect one, so I'm good.
Yeah, I planned better for my third one. So, So if I was looking, is there a franchise that is like the best, most, you were just saying, you were telling the guy that wanted to do not a grocery store, but a restaurant, you could find him something that was better and you'd 140% more profit. What is that?
Well, in that particular case, what I look for is what people's backgrounds are, what their skill set is, what type of, do they need to be with a larger franchise that has a deep, sort of deep bench strength and training team, and or like I was a Wingstop franchisee, and I met the guy that was the very first franchisee of Wingstop. Had an incredible vision, but he was the first. It's hard to be the first franchisee to have that particular vision. So who is this individual that I'm talking to, and what brand do I think, based on my expertise, could be the best brand for them? To answer your question, that particular brand, based on his skills in the restaurant industry, the fact that his wife was a CPA and was certainly all about the numbers and essential businesses, she didn't want to do a restaurant, but it was a contracting brand. It was a restoration brand. I have quite a few restoration brands, whether it's, mold remediation or flooding or whatever. People need to get their houses taken care of. And this particular brand is one of the best I've ever seen.
Wow. Yeah, we always need that, especially out here in California.
Yeah, for sure.
And pests.
Yep.
Because we always have those darn termites.
Yep. Well, and I have quite a few pest control brands that really do well. Yeah. Nobody wants to do that themselves.
Right. But if you had, so this is all people I want to start a business. I want to do a franchise. They call you up. What's your website?
IonFranchising.com. ION franchising.com. I also have a podcast, EYE, IonFranchising.com.
Okay.
Or Ion Franchising is the podcast.
Okay. All right. We got it. All right. So, and then your podcast, you talk about franchising, different types of franchising, or everything under the sun.
I just started in October. It's doing well. I represent over 750 franchise brands. So you can imagine, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. Who do I talk to today? Is it my commercial cleaning franchise? Is it, restoration brands, restaurants? I have brands in every imaginable category that people didn't even know existed.
Now, do you help, say some company has their business and they want to franchise it? Who does that?
Such a good question. And we didn't even prepare for that at all. Yes. That is probably about 25% of my business is taking smaller, larger independent businesses and setting them up to franchise. I do have an amazing mortgage company in the Northeast that we're setting up to franchise right now. Got a brand from the UK with 37 locations called Heavenly Desserts. We just set up for franchising in the US, and they're gonna explode across the country fairly quickly.
All right. So if somebody wanted to do that, what's the normal process for that? Can you walk us through that? Because I think a lot of people who listen to this have a business and didn't think about possibly franchising.
Yes. Most people where they get stuck, they have a business and it just starts to drain them. They might make a great income, but they just get tired. And how do you grow? How do you grow and scale a business that you started or you purchased? The answer is you keep hiring people, and eventually you're either going to grow out of state, in the state you're in, whatever your intentions are. And franchising, in my opinion, is much easier than doing it all yourself. You're letting other people essentially invest in your brand, taking back a license using your name, your trademark, your systems, your hard work, and just paying you a royalty. And, so I would say there's probably about 40% of the businesses that come to me, maybe 50, are not ready to franchise for whatever reason. You don't have to have everything buttoned up. It's about a 4-month process. I tell people, expect a 4-month process. I'm talking to some gentlemen tomorrow, early morning, that are ready. I mean, these guys are ready, and they've already had an incredible exit from a totally different business. And when they were bored kicking things around, they discovered another opportunity in their market. It involved dumpsters and trash pickup and things that the local provider wasn't necessarily doing, and they weren't providing great service. So they created the service model around a simple system. And when you think about some of the best franchises out there, there are some pretty creative franchises that you would have no idea initially are a franchise, and then you have other things that are quite logical, like we talked about earlier, plumbing and electrical and pest control and restaurants. But there's literally a franchise for everything.
All right, so I want to go back to, if I want a franchise, you said you have to be ready. What are you looking for in that company that is ready? What does that mean?
Well, number one, I want to know if they have a great business model. Are they making money? How long have they been in business? What is their secret sauce? I ask everybody, whether they're a restaurant or not, what do they do? Because I've owned quite a few businesses. I've created my own businesses and sold them. So I've done a little bit of everything over the last 30 years. So I know what a good business is. Then hearing their story, Ed, life, I hate to say it today, there's a story to things. And if they have a great story, it's more marketable. People want to be, associated with them. I'll give you an example. You're a veteran. 14% of franchise owners today are veterans, and which is obviously a lot higher than the general population. The general population, what percentage of the general population are veterans?
Maybe 1.4%. I don't know.
I was thinking about 2% or so, but but 14% are franchisees. So there are quite a few franchise brands that are owned by veterans that are franchisors. There's some great stories out there. So I look at the story, I look at their business model, I look at their profitability, I look at their systems that are currently in place, and I also look at, how difficult is the proof of concept going to be? Because if you are successful in Idaho, doing whatever, you're an electrician. Well, what is going to make you successful in LA versus New York versus Chicago versus Kansas City? Is there something you're doing that other electricians aren't? So we look at those things, and again, it comes back to the secret sauce, the marketing, what is the story, profitability, and we do a nice competitive analysis to understand, what we have. We look at other similar brands to determine what the franchise fee could be versus royalties. We do some number crunching to show that they can actually make money in the space if they sell franchises. Now, you can imagine too, Ed, some people are not set up to support franchisees. That is a key factor. You have to be supportive. You have to be a natural coach and mentor. If you're not ready to take that role on, then franchising might not be for you.
Right. And by the way, 7% of the United States are veterans. It's
that much?
Yeah, 7%.
Wow.
And there is 14 million or something like that. Yeah, I was surprised myself.
Yeah.
So that, but what we found, because I also do another podcast called Helping the Brave, where we help veterans once they take the uniform off, that the military sets you up to be a good business owner to a certain point because of what it teaches you and the fact that you're good at putting together SOPs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most people in the, and I don't mean this wrong, civilian world that's not in the military have no idea what an SOP is.
Yes.
They don't understand what that means, how to put it together, the whole 9 yards.
Standard operating procedure.
Right. And that little thing is huge because that means somebody else could walk in that same position without major training and pick it up and move forward, where in most places you have to have one person stand over them the whole time to tell them everything that they need to know instead of having something they can read and walk through.
And that's why in your example, if 14% of franchising, as I mentioned, are former, or veterans, active duty, or et cetera. Because, in the world of franchising, you can be an owner operator or you can be an absentee owner. There's veterans I know that are out of the country and they can own certain brands that are managed by the franchisor as well. So there's just different models, different strokes for different folks. You gave a great example on one of the podcasts I listened to based on your military experience, of course, the foxhole example you gave.
Right.
Franchising is all about being in business for yourself, but certainly not by yourself. And when you are working on the business and you're working in the business, it's not as clear sometimes what's going on around you. So that foxhole example you gave, in my world, that would be the local franchisee in the trenches doing local store marketing and doing hiring and making sure their customers are taken care of. And the franchisor are really the generals back at central command, if you will, that are ensuring that, hey, our local franchisees are safe, they're being supported, they're profitable, they're going to have a fantastic year, and they're going to refer people to them. Because again, I mentioned earlier the validation stage. Franchisees need to be happy so they can tell other people that they should join this brand.
Right. Now, I would recommend that because I know when people get out of the military, right, they're transitioning and they're trying to figure out what to do, they get lost because and a lot of them have money. And that's like with VA loans, when they buy houses, vets can buy up to 1.5 million. Really, it says 2 million, but most no more than 1.5 with no money down. Doesn't mean they don't have money. They just don't have to use it. So a lot of vets come out of the military with money to be able to buy a franchise. So I think I don't know if you do it, but maybe you should do some more marketing around some of the bases in the United States.
I actually have. I've worked with quite a few vets. In fact, so many, I would say 20% of people I work with are vets on average. I'm working with a gentleman from the Navy that was just got out of the Navy as well. I placed another gentleman that had a great sales gig that was in the Navy for 20 years. I just got a gentleman, Coast Guard, 25 years, and he bought a Great Clips franchise in the Northeast.
You would know about haircuts.
Yep.
Or how bad a haircut could be with the military.
Yep. He liked the structure of Great Clips as well, for sure.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of vets get out, and they lose that structure because they're so used to it that being able to set something up on the way out would be amazing. And so I can see, and that's why I say most vets, there's so many veteran owners that are vets that are business owners because of their background and what they know, attention to detail, all the other stuff that they learn that the only negative side of being in the military, and I'm still trying to get rid of it, is being direct.
Yeah. I'm from New York, so I'm normally direct because of that as well. Yeah. But, the other thing, and as you know, in real estate, people buy starter homes. You don't always come out of the gate looking, for your dream home, unless you're some child actor, perhaps. But, it's okay to get a starter franchise. I got plenty of military guys that come out and really want to do something that's big, a restaurant or a multi-unit deal, and just don't have the ability to do that yet. And I said, well, here's a safe bet. Do this franchise for a couple of years and make a decision at that point whether you're going to hold on to it forever. I mean, I have friends that own 3 different franchise brands. Not it could be a restaurant, could be this, could be that. I mean, there's all different things that people are doing. Everybody.
And I never thought about it, to be honest with you. So
yeah, beauty's in the eye of the beholder,
No, I mean, I'm glad you came on the show because I had a totally different take. I used to get the magazines, Inc. or what are the ones that would talk about different, the businesses and franchises to own and that kind of stuff. But I never thought about it because I've been in the mortgage industry where up until what you just said about franchises, about the mortgage company you're doing, most mortgage companies were never franchised. They were net branches. Right.
Yeah. And there's a hot mortgage company out there that my guys will compete with as soon as they're set up for franchising. There's quite a few good real estate franchises today as well.
Well, real estate franchises, I've seen that for a very long time. The ones that are out there. But
I'm talking about like property management. Mm-hmm. When technology came about, when Google popped up in, I don't know, what, 95 or whatever year it was. I'm losing track of time here. The internet in general.
When Al Gore created it.
Oh, yeah. So,
see, there's not many people who get that joke. All right.
No, the internet really opened the floodgates to some new creative dynamics in franchising. Marketing companies. I mean, I have a big brand. They have 114 people just in their marketing department alone that support their franchisees. So, when you go to start your own business, think about all the individual experts you need to hire as your resources, or you have to have the brain power to be able to do it all yourself and make the mistakes. So, I'm glad I helped you and persuaded you that it's really, again, it's not for everybody, but it's definitely for most people if they're interested in giving it a shot. On my website, there's a free assessment. That free assessment at ionfranchising.com helps me and the individual understand, based on your skill set, mindset, what business might be best for them. It's pretty scientific. It takes about 10 or 15 minutes, and it's a very helpful. As a matter of fact, all the vets, it seems, go right to that first. They want to know.
Yeah.
The old
bottom line it. Give me the bottom line. Give me the
exactly.
Hurry up and wait. That's what we're used to. So
that's it.
No, I appreciate you letting me know everything you've let me know today, especially how the franchising, what's available, the fact that you can franchise, right? But before I go, there was one more point. I was just waiting for it. Came back to my head. The one thing a lot of people don't realize these days, you're a media company now, right? Most people don't realize all the social media stuff you have to do, all the additional stuff you have to do, podcasts. I do radio. I do so many different things that you are a media company then you're the franchise that you're going to be. So if you're going to go get a franchise, the best thing about it is they have somebody doing that for you, that you don't have to do it. I can see that part of it right now, where when you go it alone, like, you do that stuff yourself. You hire the people, you hire the right people, and you keep going.
Such a good point, Ed. In the old days, everybody used to compete for that spot in the yellow pages. I'm old enough to remember that.
The phone book. Yeah. The jerk.
That's it. I'm in the phone book.
That's right. These cans are popping. They're exploding.
He hates these cans.
That's right. All right, too much movies. I guess there was not much to do when we were younger. Somebody asked me today, what's the best business movie to watch? Right? They put on Facebook, and I said Glengarry Glen Ross. Right?
Well, Glengarry Glen Ross is a great one.
The first 10 minutes, only the first 10 minutes. That's all you need to watch.
I tell people Ray Kroc's movie, The Founder.
Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, the Glengarry. If I came from the sales environment, I worked for a guy like that, Alec Baldwin, in that movie.
Yeah. Well, Glengarry Glen Ross is definitely a fantastic one. I've seen so many clips compiled for different business expos over the years. So that's definitely a great one. The other one is, oh my gosh, he passed away. Chris Farley, when he was doing his sales thing. What was it, Black Sheep?
Tommy Boy.
Tommy Boy. There you go.
As you can tell, I've seen them all. Yeah. Big guy in a little shirt, big guy in a little jacket or whatever.
Tommy Boy was a fool.
Yeah, because he's trying to go around, and there's so many different things, but business, for most, that's where we go to make our money. And I actually put a thing out the other day where you don't start a business for the money, because that's the wrong reason to get into business. You need to find out what you want to do, what's important to you, and then go do that, whatever that is, and don't listen to other people. What's success means. It's what success means to you, not what you can't look at other people and say, okay, I'm not success because I don't do that. I don't have, 140,000 followers on Instagram. Who cares? Do you have it depends on how you do it. But a lot of people get their self-worth from certain things, but
no doubt you do the right thing and sales or profits follow. I think it was Steve Jobs that once said that, in the early days of Apple, it was about producing the right product that he knew people needed and wanted, and then profits will follow. It didn't work so well in the early days. They had some rough times, but the rest, as everyone says, is history.
Right. Well, that's all. I had the UGG founder on one of my podcasts, Inner Edison. Everybody thinks he went no problem. 15 years. I mean, he lost the business during that period of time. You have no idea what you go through to build your businesses, right? Yeah. And that's why it might be better for most people to look towards the franchise they can build the franchise because they have the actual help from what you told me today.
It's all about that time factor. How much time do you have? And money is more readily available for franchise ventures. You're talking about some great stuff. You mentioned the UGG founder. One of my brother's best friends growing up, his dad was a Snapple guy in New York. And he used to bring Snapple to all the soccer games for the kids and open up the trunk and throw them in the coolers. But it was like 30 years. He'd be hawking his Snapple, all these little delis, until he started getting some distribution to the point where he can now sell for millions of dollars. But, and then, of course, what happened after that? 2 other companies sold it for, 50 times, 100 times what he sold it for.
Yeah, they probably did more to it, or had more behind it.
More distribution. It's all about sales. It's all about your sales multiple.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's the same. So there's 2 examples of starting your own company, and it takes so long to build it, but you have to, what do you want? That's what you have to look at. So what's best for you? And like you said, not always will franchise work for you, but it will work for a lot of people. And I still think you should reach out towards more veterans. On the other podcast I do, Helping the Brave, we are going to put together an event nationwide to have vets come to look at different things, whatever that is, from PTSD down to businesses, how to start things, how to do this, go to school, whatever it is, they can come there and figure it out. It'll be next year sometime. So
yeah, there's a whole vet franchise community. There's a website, vetfran.org. and it's a great organization that helps veterans with franchises and nice veteran discounts. Most brands are giving some sort of discount for veterans on the franchise fee, which is great. So we'll talk more about that.
Sounds good. And again, Lance, thank you so much for coming on today. And I'm glad that I said, hey, I want this guy on my podcast.
Well, thank you for having me, Ed.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's show. And if you like what we do here, just follow and share, and we really appreciate it. Again, Lance, thank you so much for being here today.